Initiating podcast download. Prepare yourself. Put on your spandex. Lace up your boots. Wrap your wrists. Hide your razor blade. Head to gorilla position. Grease up your hair. Apply baby oil. Okay, apply more baby oil. Get into gimmick. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Have fun and be safe out there, brother. Welcome to I'm on Wrestling. Now your host, Gregory Iron.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. I'm your host, Gregory Iron. This is episode 293. I feel so free because I can use my left arm. I mean, not completely free because I'm still working on the mobility of it, but, freer than I've felt. Hope you're well. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by again. We've got a great show today. We're going to be answering your questions from social media. Of course, first and foremost, Patreon gets priority. Patreon.com/IronWrestling, where you get a buttload of bonus content. But also, we're going to be answering your questions if you're not on Patreon. Strictly social media, as many as we can. What we can't answer, we were going to do in a bonus episode over on Patreon, which, even though $3 is the starting point, I'm feeling a little good today. I feel like this bonus episode will be a $1 holla. $1 to listen to the bonus episode that we're going to do over on Patreon, where we answer even more questions. I'm going to talk in depth about the Zach Gowen situation this past Wednesday on AEW, what I know about it, potential role that I may have played in it, and a plethora of other things from that. And of course, usually, even when I'm answering questions, I'm going to go a little bit deeper than what I would do in the regular podcast. But we're also going to talk about some of the stuff on this episode. Sabu updates following last week's episode. A little bit about Ted DiBiase Jr. We're also going to talk about more Hulk Hogan news. And yeah, it's going to be a great show today. I'm feeling good, and I hope you are too. I guess before we get started, let me talk about my last week. Nothing too crazy happening. A little bit of a book update. I've written roughly 210-ish pages, so it's flowing pretty well. And I think, again, the combination of mental health therapy that I've been doing every week, mixed with putting myself in the mindset of a child, a teenager, going through some of the trauma, the trials, the tribulations that I went through. I feel like I'm creating something really special, which, by the way, we also have some bonus sneak previews of what I've been writing for the book. Obviously, first draft type things that I'm posting over on Patreon, trying to get feedback. So if that's something you'd like to help me with, definitely sign up for the Patreon. Last week, I watched a couple new documentaries that I would recommend that you watch. I watched Liver King, that was uploaded to Netflix. It's only about an hour of your time. Fucking hate that guy. Legit. He's such a piece of shit. I don't know how anybody could have ever believed this dude and his story. A little bit of a spoiler. About 6 minutes in, this jackass literally makes the comment that the first time he ever came, it was on the bench press. He was bench pressing, and he just ejaculated. Like, are you fucking kidding me, you liar? Now, like a minute before that, he's talking about how he idolized Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I think he basically just saw Pumping Iron and stole the idea from that of, Arnold saying the pump is better than coming. And he's like, oh, I'll make my own version of that. This dude's an idiot. If you ever bought into anything this guy says, please stop listening to the show and do not associate with me. Like, if you thought that all it took to look like this guy was eating liver for every meal and living the quote-unquote ancestral lifestyle, and you don't take any steroids, you're insane. This guy took the most steroids, like $11,000 of steroids a month. Stupid. Watch the documentary. I was angry the whole time, just because I already hate this guy. But I also watched, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the new Osama bin Laden 9/11 documentary they uploaded on Netflix. No, sadly, little spoiler again, they don't reference the John Cena moment from Over the Limit, where he announces that they caught and compromised to a permanent end Osama bin Laden. Felt like that's a pretty historical moment in United States history that they didn't show, that they have video footage of, but it was interesting to see how deep the secrecy went towards the end to actually capture Osama bin Laden, and the process, how often they had to practice to actually get a hold of him on that day in May of 2011. So watch those, and this week I'm definitely going to be watching the Pee Wee Herman documentary that drops on Max. Very much looking forward to that. These things are giving me good mental breaks in between the writing and the physical therapy that I've been doing, the mental therapy. The physical therapy is going well. I'm still in a lot of pain. Mobility is coming back, but I feel like I got to slow down a little bit because pain is still like a 7 or 8 right now. And I don't know. I'm ready to get back to good, and I'm hoping by next week or the week after I'll be back in my car driving. Had it been a normal person with 2 arms, I could have already been driving again, but it just hurts too much. And with my luck, I'm just worried that someone will swerve into me, and I'll have to swerve out of the way, and then I'm going to jack up my arm, and I can't have that right now. You know, one more documentary that I watched today was actually the Brett Favre documentary, which is also a short one, 1 hour, over on Netflix. And that was interesting. What a piece of shit that guy is. And actually, coincidentally, Brett Favre is linked to, which wasn't mentioned in the documentary, but he's linked to Ted DiBiase Jr., who was in the news last week. This is a few days old, but relevant to talk about. A little update on the Ted situation. The son of the $1 Million Man set to stand trial on August 26, facing serious federal charges that could land him behind bars for decades. Jury selection kicks off on August 19th, and the courtroom drama is heating up as prosecutors and defense attorneys prepare to present their expert witnesses. DiBiase was arrested in April 2023, staring down a mountain of charges, including 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and theft of federal funds, 6 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of theft concerning programs receiving federal funds, and 4 counts of money laundering. If convicted, the former WWE star could be sentenced to 45 years in prison and hit with $1 million in fines. So 45 years. Ted Jr. is about my age, a couple years older, I think. So he's basically in there until he's like 85. He's probably going to die in prison, unless he is in extremely good health while in prison for 45 years. So that sucks. Blah, blah, blah. He, according to the court indictment, DiBiase ranked in massive payments under false pretenses, including $500,000 from the Family Resource Center for so-called Leadership Outreach Services, $500,000 from the Mississippi Community Education Center for unspecified services, nearly $500,000 for assessing emergency food assistance needs, $1 million to create a RISE program for inner city youth, which allegedly never materialized, $250,000 from MCEC for undefined services. He also bankrolled a lavish lifestyle, which included purchasing of a house, a boat, and a vehicle. In one case, he allegedly transferred $1,000 to K&T Management, another company he owned, for property in Madison, Mississippi. So this guy's a real fucking piece of shit, and he's going to go down hard. And it's unfortunate. You know, it's crazy because everybody thought Ted DiBiase was going to be the guy in Legacy, right? You even heard it from Cody Rhodes himself that the company was looking at Ted as the guy. If you remember, you look at the Marine franchise, if you recall, you know we probably have a lot of WWE films of the Marine fans out there. Marine 1 is John Cena. Marine 3 through whatever the hell, That's The Miz. But Marine 2, Marine 2 is Ted DiBiase Jr. They were trying to push this dude. They gave him his own movie. I got to go back and watch that, actually, to see if it was even good. I mean, I watched it, but a lot of those WWE films are just not even memorable. Like honestly, who predicted Cody Rhodes would be the guy in Legacy? I've been on record to say I did not like Cody those first couple years. So, Ted DiBiase, what a piece of garbage. Hey, in other news though, speaking of pieces of garbage, Hulk Hogan back in the news. I don't know if you heard, but he's trying to purchase Hooters. No, this is not a Hulk Hogan lie of the week. Fox Business Digital claims the bid is a step in Real American Beer's expansion into acquiring legacy properties that align with its developing portfolio and mission to build a lifestyle platform that is as entertaining as it's patriotic. Pending acquisition, the business is reportedly planning to relaunch Hooters across consumer products, digital content, gaming, and experimental formats, but re-energized for today's generations. Real American Beer is a premium light beer, which was co-founded by Hogan in 2024. America at its best when united, the brand's official website reads, and if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's the simple pleasures of sharing a beer. That's why we started Real American Beer, to bring people together one beer at a time. If you remember Hulk Hogan's quote, as Americans, we all want the same things, right? We all want freedom. We all want our borders built up. We all want God back in the schools, right? We all want those things, right? That's what Hulk Hogan went on record to say, because he's a liar and just says stuff. Hooters filed for bankruptcy in March, but despite the filing and $376 million in debt, the 42-year-old brand insists it's not going anywhere. So basically the idea would be to not rebrand Hooters, but Hooters would basically be stocked up on Real American Beer shit, like the Real American Beer brand. Like, you're going to be able to buy this watery beer from everything that I hear. I don't drink beer, so I don't know. In Hooters. Can you... Hulk Hogan in Hooters. Hollywood Hulk Hooters. How could this even be a real thing that's happening? Hulk Hogan has tried a lot of projects over the last couple decades that have just kind of failed. He's attached his name to things and it just didn't work. I'm surprised Real American Beer has lasted this long. When he launched it, I just thought it was going to be a flash in the pan. Like he had his Hulk Hogan Thunder Mixer. That was something that would short circuit when you plugged it up. His Hulk Hogan Grill, which I'm pretty positive was also another thing that would short circuit when he plugged it in. And then you had stuff like, what else did he have over the years? He had Pasta Mania that didn't work out. He had cheeseburgers and fucking chicken sandwiches that he sold in Walmart. His Saco energy drink that was around for a cup of coffee. Hogan has not had luck with these endeavors outside of professional wrestling. Can Hooters work for Hulk Hogan? I don't think Hulk Hogan's ever been known for his Hooters. It's usually his pythons, right? No one's ever really looked at his pecs and been like, "Woo, wow." I mean, I guess they were pretty okay Hooters, but I literally thought this was a joke when I saw it on social media, but it is not a joke. It is not a lie. One last thing before we go to a commercial break here. I wanted to talk about, last week we did a Sabu episode. We re-aired our Sabu interview with some new intro stuff beforehand. This was recorded back in 2022, and I just want to thank you guys. It's one of the more downloaded episodes in a long, long time. You really showed out for Sabu, which, R.I.P. my friend. Pretty cool that you guys checked out the podcast. Hope you guys learned some interesting stuff. So probably some stuff you've never heard in other interviews with Sabu. So if you haven't listened to it, go back and watch it. Obviously, I worked with Sabu a couple times. Aaron Bauer, who obviously is not in the building because I haven't been able to drive to him to podcast. He worked with Sabu a number of times over the years when he would book him for UCW back in the 90s. We actually uploaded 3 or 4 Sabu matches from the 1990s over on our YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, check that out. One of which is a match that you probably never realized that you needed to see, that you probably didn't even imagine existed. Sabu in September of 2001, when the world was very chaotic, he took on a man that represented the USA. And that man was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That is a real match that we have almost in its entirety over on YouTube. And oh yeah, there's a special guest enforcer. His name is Steve Wilkos from the Jerry Springer Show. I don't know the backstory. I'd love to know the backstory, but we found it, we salvaged it, and we got it almost in its entirety over on our YouTube, Iron on Wrestling. Last week after we aired the episode, a lot of people came out and did tributes for Sabu, said some kind words about the man that Sabu was. That includes his best friend, Rob Van Dam. So last Thursday night, RVD and Taz did a live stream sharing their memories of Sabu following his passing. RVD addressed controversy that emerged the last week with Joey Janela and the Spring Break and GCW. RVD had this to say: all the heat that's gone to Joey Janela and GCW, ridiculous. I've read comments from social media followers that say GCW should be arrested on manslaughter. Wait, regardless of the cause of death 3 weeks later? Thank God these people aren't actually in control, actually making decisions. The article that I'm looking at would go on to say, Sabu died on May 11th, less than a month after defeating Janela at Spring Break. A cause of death has not been released yet. RVD said that because Sabu and his ex-wife never got officially divorced, there's a hold-up with needing her permission for some things. She's living in Japan and doesn't want anything to do with the situation. RVD said Sabu using Kratom for the Spring Break match had, quote, nothing to do, end quote, with him dying 3 weeks later. RVD himself uses Kratom regularly, and Sabu would use it every day. Quote, a lot of my friends have been able to quit taking opiates and take Kratom. A lot of followers have told me and thanked me for talking about Kratom because they've done the same thing. Can you get addicted to Kratom? You can get addicted to fucking chocolate. If you're a person that's going to be addicted to stuff, then stay away from everything. The answer to that is yes, sure, it's possible. Can you take too much? Sure. Sabu vs. Janela was billed as Sabu's retirement match, but Sabu felt like he still had one more match left in him. Quote, people are saying, shame on JCW for allowing a 60-year-old to get in the ring and have a match like that, and I could tell you he was my closest dude friend, closest person to me next to Katie Forbes right here, and I could tell you that he was 61 and he wanted that. He wanted that for a long time. In fact, Joe Clark, we've had him on the show before. Joe Clark and I made the documentary on concussions called Headstrong, which is on Amazon. He'd been working with Sabu for a long time, several months on filming a documentary. Just a few weeks ago, they were over here. Sabu and I were working out in my gym and hanging out in my sauna. I can't wait to see the footage that he has now. And of course, the ending is definitely going to be a little different than they planned on. He was training. He was wanting to have this big retirement match. So much that when it got down to it, he knew that he had much more in him, you know? One thing that he said when he saw him after his match with Joey Janela, he said, I got one more match in me. If he's still interested in doing that barbed wire match, I'm interested. Because I had talked to him before about being the guy that's his last opponent, which a lot of people would think easy. Of course, you're going to do that. But he said, no, that's cheating, just like he thinks two brothers wrestling each other is cheating from his perspective because they grew up and they know each other too well. RVD also went on to say that he didn't really want to do a barbed wire match, but for Sabu, he could have possibly talked him into it. So, last thing first, I get what Sabu's saying. Does it seem like cheating when you're wrestling someone that you know so well? That's kind of like your brother? Maybe. You know, I would undoubtedly have my best chemistry in a final match with someone like a Johnny Gargano, an M-Dog Matt Cross, my brother Zach, my actual brother, you know, like you just know something about each other that it just works, right? That being said, Sabu does have some interesting perspectives in general. I mean, if you've ever listened to anything with Sabu, or if you've been following any of the latest interviews about him, Sabu, he had good psychology, but like interesting point of view. Like I would never think to intentionally botch all of my dives like he would do. Now I get where he was coming from. Like I always loved the idea of Shawn Michaels calling a botched spot with Mankind in the Mind Games in Your House match, where he wanted people to think that he was legit getting angry because he knew the dirt sheets knew that Shawn would throw temper tantrums in the match. So Shawn calls the Mankind to purposely not jump off the turnbuckle, what was it? Shawn gets whipped into the turnbuckle, goes to dive, Mick's not there. He gets down and he starts like unloading on him for real to make the internet think like, oh, he's shoot pissed off, right? And get people more emotionally invested. So Sabu, always with his dives, always thought to himself, well, in real life, this would probably get fucked up. And so he would miss one time or two times. He would stumble off the rope. Interesting perspective. I don't know if I would want to do that on purpose, but, you know, it's Sabu, and he was iconic, and I'm not, so. Now, one of the questions from social media this week that I'm just going to address now, even though they're not a Patreon member, since we're on the subject of it. This question was from Jenny Blanchett. She said, are we mad at Joey Janela and the jerks who gave Sabu kratom? I mean, I am, but I've seen a lot of shit takes. So, I agree with a lot of what RVD said. Sabu was a grown man, and Sabu had the ability to make his own decisions. Now, again, it sounds like Sabu, even when he took that whip into the barbed wire and fell to the floor and cracked his head, he, on his own free will, went back in the ring. You could maybe have disputed that had he not done those interviews that are now surfacing from whatever that live podcast that he did, a video podcast where he talked about it in depth. Because, like, I personally know from experience, I've agreed to continue in matches while knocked out and didn't realize that I was knocked out, right? But Sabu claimed that he was fine with it. So, he wasn't on autopilot. This wasn't something that he was saying just because he was in the moment. He made these decisions, right? RVD is saying that Sabu chose to do kratom. He had regularly been doing kratom. I don't hold GCW accountable. I'll say this, though. I think that promoters, and this just doesn't go for individual wrestlers or like just for drugs or drinking in the locker room. I think promoters, if they can't do it during the show, they need someone policing the locker room to see what's happening. You can't fucking babysit people, performers, wrestlers, and like what they're doing when they're not on your watch, right? When they're not in your building, when not wrestling on your show, then I don't think you can control them. But if they're on your time, they're going to be performing in your ring in the building that you rented, and you're responsible and liable. I think it's important that there is someone that can make sure that these guys aren't getting drunk before their match, I'm not talking about weed, aren't doing hard drugs before their matches or after their matches if they're in the fucking building. And like beyond that, like let's not even talk about drugs and alcohol. Like some wrestlers are fucking pigs and they'll leave shit all over the building, in the locker room that we're using. They don't pick up after themselves. And that falls on the promoter. And sometimes when these guys go, fucking buck wild, do whatever the fuck they want, that's how you end up losing venues. And, for example, God forbid, let's say there's just no let's go mild. They don't want any drinking in the locker room. Let's say you're running in a rec center, okay? Now, GCW runs in a variety of buildings. They run in bigger arenas. They run in decent-sized ballrooms. But they also run your UFW halls and your rec centers and your youth centers and things like that. A guy brings some alcohol in the locker room. He's drinking everywhere. He knows there's kids there, or kids are going to be there. The guy who owns the building that's renting his building for the day, he sees a bunch of dudes drinking in the locker room. Now maybe he doesn't want wrestling back because some fucker who's just doing whatever he wants in the locker room is ruining it for everybody else in the future. I've seen more drugs and alcohol used in the locker room in the last 5 to 7 years than I saw in the first, 13 to 14 years of my career. I feel like I've always been actively good about staying away from it. because I don't do those things. I surround myself with like-minded individuals. But I've seen a lot of guys on a lot of shows doing things that they should not be doing in the locker room. And it's not my place to say anything. I'm not their parent. I'm not their significant other. But if nobody's watching over these guys, policing the locker room, this shit is going to happen. And it doesn't make for a good experience if this person's going to perform in the ring, safety-wise. And it could just ruin the reputation of the promotion with the venue. And you might not be running there again. So, again, I don't put any responsibility on Janela or Brett Lauderdale. I don't do drugs, but I like a good energy drink. If I drink too many energy drinks and have a heart attack, who's responsible? Does the convenience store that sold me the energy drinks get sued? Do we lump the company that created the energy drink into the lawsuit? Like, how far does this go? At the end of the day, I made the choice to drink the energy drink. To another extent, my dad got lung cancer. Why? Because he smoked cigarettes from like the age of 12 or 13 on up. When he got lung cancer, he knew what could happen. There was no secret. Nothing was hidden from him. He knew that there was a chance that if you smoke cigarettes regularly, you may get lung cancer. Hell, in Canada, they purposely label the cigarette packages with cut open throats and black lungs and deteriorating mouths from people that just years of tobacco use. People still buy the cigarettes despite that warning label with the photos. So it's no secret what will happen to you potentially if you do these things. So what happens? The guy gets lung cancer. Does he sue the tobacco company? I don't think so. The responsibility goes on the individual who chose to do it. My mom did crack. No one forced her to do it. She kept doing it and she died. That's what happens. We are all adults and we make our own decisions. And, we could try to help these people. I know I'm going into a big diatribe here. We could try to help these people, but it goes for a lot of things. You cannot truly get help unless you are willing to receive it. When it comes to me actually going to mental health therapy, I thought over the years that there were a lot of things that I could fix on my own. There's a lot of things that I did fix on my own. Probably took a little longer than it should have if I would have just actually gone to a professional. But I was in denial when it came time to go to therapy until I had a deep, long look within myself and realized that I had a lot of unaddressed childhood trauma that I needed to really sit with for the first time. That's on me. And as a 38-year-old man, it took me 30-ish years to actually sit with the things that I went to, not just make jokes of it. And for the first time, a lot of the things that I went to, a lot of the physical and mental abuse, I've been doing a lot of crying, finally getting it out. So, Sabu is gone, but I don't think what happened in the GCW match had any direct correlation. Who knows? Only time will tell. We don't know with the autopsy or anything, but I don't think there will be anything from 3 weeks prior to that you could point to that is directly on GCW, Brett Lauderdale, or Joey Janela. All right, that's my rambling about all that. Hey, patreon.com/Iron Wrestling for a buttload of bonus content. $3 get you bonus audio, $5 get you bonus video, $9 gets you involved in the live chat that we do once a month. We're going to do one before the end of the month here. $25 you get something in the mail. Go up and up and up in the tiers. You can actually sit and do the podcast with me. $100 tier once a month. And it's just not sitting with me and doing a podcast. We're going to shoot the shit. We're going to eat some food. So why not give it a shot? Patreon.com/Iron Wrestling. If you haven't subscribed already, do so. Subscribe to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you download podcasts, YouTube, where we keep uploading content all the time. And yeah, that's that. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to answer some of your questions from social media, but Patreon is going to get priority. And then whatever's left, we're going to do in a bonus episode exclusively for patreon.com/Iron Wrestling for just $1. One single solitary dollar. If 10 of you, 10 new people for $1 sign up, that means I can buy a sandwich from like Subway or preferably Jersey Mike's. So help a brother out. Also, throwing it out there, my GoFundMe is still up and running. I'm out of work. I'm out of action until at least September. So, help a handicapped hero out. That being said, commercial break. We'll come back. We got more Iron on Wrestling. Have I got a deal for you? Are you an independent wrestler? Or are you a regular person? It doesn't matter, because somehow, some way, you could take advantage of this offer from Nerdy Designs. That's Nerdy Designs on Facebook. Right now, they're offering a special deal. 500 cards, double-sided design, print and shipping included, $45. That's right. I've used Nerdy Designs before for trading cards. Jordan Grace has done it. Kurt Angle has done it. Gangrel has done it. You ever hear of a musician by the name of Ice Vanilla? I said it backwards. Vanilla Ice. You've heard of him? Yeah. He's gotten trading cards through Nerdy Designs. If you're an independent wrestler, it's a great way to make some bank at the merch table. If you're just a regular Joe Schmo who wants to make a trading card of your favorite wrestler, actor, whatever, why not take advantage of this? 500 cards, double-sided, $45. Don't be a geek. Go to Facebook right now, reach out to Nerdy Designs, and tell them Gregory Iron sent you. Lately, I've been having a in-depth conversation with a longtime good, dear, close personal friend of mine from Patreon, Dean Chard. And Dean Chard, he's been coming to me for a lot of fitness advice. He's got cerebral palsy like myself. He's in a wheelchair. And, I've been helping him a little bit with his diet. But I'm in good shape, but I'm not an expert. I'm trying to direct Dean Chard to the expert. The man who sponsors Iron on Wrestling. The company that helps sponsor Iron on Wrestling, TNT-health.com. If you're on your health and wellness journey, I think it's imperative that you check them out. Mike and the good folks at TNT Health are going to be with you every step in the way, not just to sell you supplements, but to sell you results. They'll get you going with a couple things that you need. They're not going to try to oversell you like someone like GNC or Vitamin Shop. They just want you to get the couple things that you need to attain your goals. And then, if somewhere down the line you want to add to that regimen, you can. They've got different types of products for all your needs. Fat burners, muscle building supplements, protein, pre-workout, post-workout, pro-hormone, healthy living stuff like amino acids, vitamins, minerals, all that. Check them out. It's free to look. TNT-health.com. And you know what? If you want to save some extra money, 10% off if you use promo code IRONON. IRONON. And keep in mind, you're not just getting supplements from the website. Mike is going to help you with your nutrition, your macros. You tell him your goals. He's going to help you hit them. And, he doesn't even have to do that. That's free of charge. Someone else would charge you probably $100, maybe a couple $100 a month to do something like that. What are you waiting for? Check out TNT-health.com right now. Use our promo code IRONON. Save 10%. Get started today, because at TNT Health, it's about your health today, not tomorrow. Do you know my good buddy Juan? Juan Ortiz. He runs Of the Dead Designs. At this point, it's got to be 20 years, right? Juan, let me know. It's got to be 2 decades. We've been saying it's been almost 20 years for a long time. I think we reached 20 years. I'm just rounding up at this point. 20 years of making t-shirt designs, artwork for, the average person, but also many of the most prominent wrestlers within the professional wrestling industry. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Penta, Ethan Page, the Young Bucks. Oh yeah, I just said the Young Bucks. Iron on Wrestling has used artwork from Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs. All the major corporations in professional wrestling. I don't know why I called them corporations, but I just did. WWE, NXT, AEW, TNA, New Japan. When TNA was Impact, he was doing designs for them too. Many, many, many independent promotions. That was barely a word that I just said. Independent promotions. And you should be a strong, independent person and reach out to Juan Ortiz to get artwork for yourself, a friend, family member, loved one. Just because he's making artwork for some very rich and famous people, he's still affordable. And he can save even more money. When you mention Iron on Wrestling, he'll save you $20 on your first design. Any design you want. That's including like a logo for a business. If you're getting a business started, you want a logo from Juan Ortiz and Of the Dead Designs. So, do yourself a favor. Reach out to Juan. Mention Iron on Wrestling. Save $20. Instagram is where you want to go. At Of the Dead Designs. Facebook.com/ofthedeaddesigns, or go to his website, ofthedead.weebly.com, because Of the Dead Designs is bringing artwork to life. All right, I'm going to answer some questions from social media. First and foremost, Patreon members will get their questions answered, and then I'll answer some from the regular social media folk. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a bonus episode for $1 holla over on Patreon. So if you didn't hear your question here, it'll be on Patreon. Stay tuned for that. If it's not up already, give me a day or so. Actually, believe it or not, Eric from Patreon will love this. I recorded this episode already, and the mic wasn't on. Actually, it was on. It wasn't plugged in all the way. So, fuck my life. Anyways, questions. Here we go. Pete from Patreon says, if you could uncancel one wrestler, oh god, so that you could work with them or because you enjoyed their work, etc., who would it be and why? Follow-up question. I can't believe you would uncancel. Insert your answer here. I can't believe you condone what they did. That's horrible. You're a monster. How do you sleep at night? Well, thank you for your question, Pete. Actually, you know what? I don't sleep very well at night. I don't know what's going on lately. I'm usually very good with just falling asleep and being okay, but lately, I go to sleep. I wake up after about an hour or two, and then I'm fucked. I don't know. I can't fall back asleep. As I record this, it is 2:55 in the morning because I can't fall asleep. And then something will happen where maybe at like 4, I'll actually fall asleep, and then I'll have no problem sleeping until like 11 or 12. And, then I'm screwed because I slept my whole day away. So, but to answer your question, Brian Kendrick, I think he's still kind of canceled, right? That's the deal. He may or may not have said years ago, said some anti-Semitic things, which is not cool. It resurfaced right before he was going to do some stuff for AEW, and that was that. I'm not trying to justify it. As you said, I can't believe you condone what they did. I'm a monster. We all say dumb stuff when we're younger. I'm pretty sure Brian has since apologized on social media for it. But what he said was said 15 years ago when he was like, in his late 20s. I mean, at 20s, you're still making a lot of mistakes, even if it's 29. Kids are dumb. I was still making mistakes in my goddamn 30s. So, again, not trying to justify anything. I will say this, though. Not only was I a fan of Brian, which makes me a little biased, um, I've had many conversations with Brian over the years, and um, you know, I've had no issues with him. He's been very nice to me over the years, and there was a time where he would have been linked in with Paul London as far as two guys that I would realistically want to have a dream match with. I always picked those guys because they were smaller in size. I felt like I've always enjoyed their style, and while I can't do as much stuff as them, I feel like there would be two guys who would bring me up to their level, like create the illusion that I was as good as them and we could have a great match. Um, I think people lose sight sometimes of the fact that I've worked with some of the best wrestlers in the world and I've kept up with them, despite the fact that I am not the caliber of wrestler that they are. We've created some great wrestling magic, and I think I could do that with Brian Kendrick. So that's who I would pick. So don't be mad at me. That's the answer to the question there. Josh Excellent says, do you have any movies or TV shows that, even though you recognize they are flawed, that you consider to be a masterpiece? For instance, I Will Die on the Hill, that Donnie Darko and Dark City are phenomenal movies. I'm getting there with Beau is Afraid. I don't know if I'd call these masterpieces. Well, the first one I'm going to name definitely not a masterpiece. But I've always really enjoyed the movie Baby's Day Out. I feel like it gets a bad rap, and a very underrated film. 1994 classic. I believe it was 94. Could have been 93. But in kind of the same vein of like Home Alone, except for it's a baby on a day out, escaping kidnappers. Legitimately, I feel like over the years, the 1993 Super Mario Brothers, again, could you call it a masterpiece? I don't know about that, but it's definitely more like now than it was when it came out. And look, remove the Mario Brothers video game from your mind. Okay, I know that's hard because it's such a iconic thing. It's so a part of pop culture. But try to erase Mario Brothers, the game, from your mind, and then watch the 1993 film. I think it is a good movie. And I always dug the vibe of the movie. I've always liked that Mad Max type vibe, that Blade Runner type look that Mario 1993 had. And I don't think it's that bad. Also, the rare action figures that I have in their entirety outside of wrestling action figures. I collect Ghostbusters and I collect Turtles and I collect Mighty Max, but I also have, not including the car because that's very hard to get a hold of, and last time I was online it was like $1,000. I have all 6 of the Super Mario Brothers 1993 film figures. Okay, so that's how much I love that movie. I have the special edition Blu-ray with like the booklet and all that good stuff. I really enjoy it. A TV show, just off the top of my head, if we're talking sitcoms, that is a masterpiece, and we've talked TGIF. No one ever talks Perfect Strangers. I don't know why. Larry and Balky are great. There's great physical comedy in it. It gets slept on because I think people from our generation that grew up on TGIF and that Friday night lineup, they think of the family sitcoms. Family Matters, Step by Step, Full House, Boy Meets World. But in that original lineup was Perfect Strangers. Not your typical TGIF show as we would know in later years. It's this odd couple, cousins living together, yada, yada, yada. I think it's iconic, and I think people forget about it. Justin Bonifield says, what podcasts do you listen to regularly, and how do you listen to them? Specific routine, driving, chores, around the house, and then fantasy book podcast with any two people in and out of wrestling from any time period. All right. Podcasts I listen to regularly. Let's start with non-wrestling first. Every now and then I'll drop into How Did This Get Made? I used to listen to it a lot more than I do now. But I really enjoy that just because I love terrible movies. And then sometimes when I listen to it, it'll give me a good recommendation for a terrible movie that I should check out. Or it'll remind me of a terrible movie that I always enjoyed. Um, I'll count it as a non-wrestling podcast. I watch it in video form. There's a YouTuber bodybuilder guy that I love, Dr. Mike Israetel, who I think gives a lot of good insight on training, dieting, and nutrition. So I watch a lot of his videos, but also he does like extended videos in a video slash podcast form. And I pay for the premium YouTube, so I can just exit out of YouTube and listen to it like a podcast. So I really enjoy his stuff. It just helps me give me different ideas for my dieting and exercise and things like that. My routine for listening to these, it's a lot of like when I get up in the morning to do my steps. That's when I'm listening to a lot of my podcast stuff. Driving, a good road trip. That's how I'll listen to it. If I'm doing the dishes or something, I'll put on a quick clip of a podcast from YouTube. Not a whole podcast, but some clips. As far as wrestling podcasts that I listen to, in clip form, I listen to Jim Cornette, even though I don't agree with everything he says, and he hates my best friend in the world. I do think he has good ideas. It's just the way that he says it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I like to listen to... I fell out a lot of the Conrad podcast, but I still will pretty regularly listen to Eric Bischoff. I appreciate his takes, even though he is friends with Hulk Hogan and claims that Hulk Hogan said racial slurs because he was on medication. Don't know if medication will do that to you. Not sure what type of medication one would take for that to occur. And then what other wrestling podcasts do I listen to? I like Dutch Mantel. I'll listen to that in clips, and I like Stevie Richards. Those are kind of been my go-tos, just off the top of my head. Let's see, who else do we got from Patreon? Dean Chart says Coke or Pepsi. I'm going Coke. It used to be Coke Zero for a while, but then they reformulated it, so I went back to Diet Coke. So Diet Coke is going to be my pick there. Let's see here. Eric says, what are your thoughts on this controversy? It's a screen cap of a story that Otis posted on Instagram, and it says the following. WWE Talent Relations, effective immediately, WWE will be making adjustments in the catering offerings at all televised, non-televised events, beginning with tonight's live TV taping of Monday Night Raw. Due to continued reports and direct observations of excessive consumption and misuse of the snack cake bar by a select number of individuals, we have made the decision to remove the following items from complimentary catering access. Zebra cakes, Swiss rolls, cosmic brownies, oatmeal cream pies. While these items will no longer be available free of charge, they will be available for purchase at the designated catering station. $1 per item male staff, $1.50 per item female staff. Before you get your panties in a bunch, it also says this in the email. Note the pricing difference accounts for average supply and demand trends observed during the past several tours. So, what do I think about this? Well, first of all, based on the pricing difference for men and women, and the women have the higher pricing, it sounds like that they've caught someone, or they know that someone is taking advantage of the zebra cakes and the oatmeal cream pies and taking them and stuffing them in their bag for road trips, and then maybe even stocking them in their own kitchen on their off time. And it seems like it's the female talent. So it sounds like to me. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. If you're a company, you're supplying free shit, both any job really, but thinking about it in terms of wrestling, WWE, if I'm on an indie show, listen, guys are going to take advantage of that shit. It's rare that we get offered anything other than water bottles in the locker room, which sometimes that is pulling teeth for promoters to spend $10 on a couple cases of water. God forbid that we're hydrated before our match. But on the rare occasion that they have like a sponsor and they get like, let's say energy drinks, like a plethora of energy drinks, listen, I'm going to take one or two for the road, okay? It's going to save me like $5 or $6. I'm not ashamed to admit that, okay? This sounds like this is what's happening here with the cream pies, okay? So they're just doing their due diligence. They're trying to save a couple bucks. Now TKO is a multi-billion-dollar company, so not sure if they're hurting for cash that much that they got to charge $1.50, but that's what they're doing. Let's see. Trying to see. I got a bunch of questions from the last couple weeks because we weren't able to get to a lot of them because of the Sabu situation last week, and we just kept it short. But let me see what else we got here. Speaking of Sabu, Juan Ortiz says, how many gorillas would take down one Sabu? Well, if we're talking about current Sabu, he is dead, so I don't think more than one would be required. But if he was alive, peak Sabu, I'm saying at least two. I'd say two. He's very homicidal and suicidal and genocidal, and it wouldn't be easy. At least two and some barbed wire and some tables to take down Sabu for sure. Juan Ortiz also says, how do you find love like Joe Exotic's deported husband who left imprints of his butthole to remember him by? Now, I want to point out, I did not know this was a thing, but I looked it up, and first of all, I'm not sure how Joe Exotic keeps getting these younger, mildly attractive boyfriends. It's weird to me. I mean, look at Joe Exotic. But also, yeah, Joe received as a gift from his deported boyfriend, who was deported by Donald Trump, asshole prints in the form of like a picture. I have a lot of questions about this. First of all, it's weird. It's a weird thing to do. I've never heard of this being a thing. And second, how much wiping and water and cleaning had to happen to then be able to ink your butthole and then press it onto paper repeatedly? Then what is the cleaning and water process like to get the ink off that you used on your butthole? Everybody's got their thing, but I have never heard of this being a thing. I guess to answer the question, how do you find love like that? I don't know. I guess you have to have a mullet and make AI music. That seems like the way to go. Actually, now that I think about it, I do make AI music for YouTube, and currently, because I need a haircut, my hair is getting very mullety. So, you know what? I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to give anybody any ideas. It's bad enough that I get a bunch of crazy sock requests. I don't need someone sending me pictures of their butthole or prints of their butthole. Josh Excellent says, best movie soundtracks. You know what? I'm going to say, if I'm doing cardio, the Rocky IV soundtrack is always great. A lot of instrumental, but good stuff. The new metal kid in me can easily say the Punisher soundtrack from 2004. And also, I think a lot of new metal kids from that time period would say the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack was an all-time banger. I think the Crow soundtrack back in 1994 is kind of underrated. I would also say, boy, hard of me to think of, I didn't buy a lot of movie soundtracks. You know what? Last Action Hero has not a bad soundtrack. Not too shabby. That movie is very underrated. You know what? You want to talk about a movie that should be looked at as a masterpiece. To go back to your other question, Josh, Last Action Hero. People didn't understand that movie at the time, and I don't understand why they didn't understand it, because as a kid, I understood it. I got the concept. I understood that it was very meta. I think it's much more appreciated now. What else do we have here? A bunch of questions from Eric. So, what else is new there? Thank you, Eric, for your participation. Who else do we have from Patreon before we get some social media stuff? Anybody? All right. Let's go back and get some questions answered from social media as much as we can in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Sorry, scrolling. All right, here we go. Oh, boy. Justin Cannon says, what's one thing that's been normalized in wrestling, in-ring or elsewhere, that you would prefer wasn't par for the course? That's easy. The Canadian/Mexican Destroyer. I can't believe how abused that move has been. I can't believe that it's now being abused and bastardized in WWE. I think only once it's been used as a finish with, like, in a Penta match or something. And it was done to Chad Gable, and it looked incredible. Should definitely be a finish. I can't believe... we live in a time where just last year they were putting over the pile driver as a deadly move in WWE, and then they're doing the Canadian Destroyer like it's nothing. Who else do we have here? Ryan Anderson says, who made Steve Guttenberg a star? I would imagine the person that casted him in Police Academy. I think that's where it began. I think that perhaps maybe if you're a person of my age, you may remember Steve Guttenberg better in the film Two of a Kind, the Olsen twins film where he played their dad. So, not sure where that question came from, but there it is. Bruce Mikrowski says, if you're interested, Jason Knight might still be looking for wrestlers, Mr. Iron. So if so, message him on Facebook. He's one of the ECW originals. I will not do that. I am not interested. I am not wrestling. So, don't know why you would comment that. No offense. Just, it's a weird thing. Not are you helping him book? Very strange. Ken Birch, ever receive a stink face? And if numerous, what was your favorite? I've never received a stink face, and I mean, it would have to be a joke that you worded it, if numerous. Like, you want me to name every stink face that I ever got, but I am looking at your Facebook, and it's there are no pictures of you, so I'm questioning if this is a joke. I don't think it is. Your follow-up question, ever been Bronco busted? And if numerous, what was your favorite? And you've also included, it's important to point out, a slow-motion stink face from a guy to another guy, and then a slow-motion Bronco buster. I will say that for some reason, if you go to my Cameo to get a shout-out, the AI bio that's been written talks about how I'm known for the stink face, which I don't know how that happened. I am not known for the stink face. So AI is very wrong. It's ridiculous. What else do we got here in the questions? William Huger says, where are you wrestling now? Nowhere. I'm injured. Justin Cannon says, if Vince doesn't take over the territories, where do you think the current state of wrestling would be? I think someone else would have expanded. Probably JCP, Crockett, I can't think of any other business where there was like imaginary boundaries that you couldn't cross, right? Especially as late as it happened with wrestling. So I got to imagine someone would have been like, hey, why can't we take this global? If not Vince, it was going to be someone else. And also, I want to point out just a little side note. I hate everybody in independent wrestling that tries to call where they wrestle a territory. Territories are dead. They're not coming back. There are no independent wrestlings. There are not enough independent wrestling federations working together for anybody to call themselves a territory. And even if there were 10 in a given area working together, guarantee you one would break that and stab someone in the back, and it's just a fucking joke to call it a territory. Just, it's independent wrestling. No one is really friends. Did you see your former partner Zach Allen on AEW? This is from John Sacamano. Yes, I did, and I'm going to talk about that over on the $1 Holla podcast. Jason Amos says, at the height of her pop culture relevance in music, should Cyndi Lauper have been doing wrestling-related events, or did those events lessen her credibility? I don't think they did. She didn't take a hit from it. I think it made wrestling better, obviously. And it's a shame that Cyndi Lauper somehow is still not in the WWE Hall of Fame. When is that going to happen? She is such an integral part of the build of the WWF in 1984 and 1985. So she's got to get in that Hall of Fame. If you're talking about celebrities that legitimately deserve it, she's one of them. Mark Mackay says that a true Jordynne Grace was inspired by Walt the Promoter. What else would she be called? Why else would she be called the Juggernaut? I don't think that is true. I do know Jordynne a bit, and I don't think she ever worked with Walt the Promoter. She was very young when Walt the Promoter was on his way out from promoting. So I know you're joking, but yeah. Let's see here. Let's try to get one more in, and then we'll do the rest on Patreon. Dylan Wagner says, with the situation with Saraya and other professional wrestlers / sports entertainers, should fan interactions be more controlled by security, or should they be handled by the performers if they cross the line? I think it's a little bit of both. If you don't know, Saraya was approached by a fan and they tried to kiss her on the lips. Like, what the fuck? This is why you want to talk about experiences where the wrestlers at meet and greets or the celebrities don't have time to interact with you or anything, don't make eye contact, you can't touch them. This is why. Because one person ruins it for everybody. One dumbass. Like, why would you think that Saraya would kiss you on the lips, you fucking mouth breather? Like, mouth breather. On one hand, most of the time, like when you go to those autograph signings, they are moving you fast. It's because you got 2 to 3 hours, right? And you got a lot of people that get through that line. But also, people do dumb shit like this. People are trying to, like, I don't know if someone had a camera or something. I imagine he was just a creep, but, like, people try to create these viral moments now that everybody's got cell phone cameras and shit, and they go to business for themselves, and it's self-serving, and it's detrimental to other people that just legitimately want to meet their hero or their idol or the person that they paid money to see. They're hoping to get, whether it be, you know, a couple minutes or 30 seconds or maybe even 5 minutes. They want that person's undivided attention, and you know, it'd be nice to put an arm around the person you came to meet, shake their hand. Security, you know, they can only do so much, and, like, listen, if Saraya would have punched this guy in the fucking face, she would have been justified. If you aren't in the public eye and you've never done an autograph signing, you might not see the big deal. You might not look at it as work. But as someone who's done autograph signings at conventions, works a gimmick table, you know, a lot of weekends in the course of my life, interacting with fans, signing stuff, talking, having conversations, it's work. It's fun. It's better than clocking into a 9-to-5 job, for sure. I'm not going to say that that's not true. But it's work. And it becomes work that you hate when you have to worry if a fan is going to try to sexually assault you, try to talk down to you in a way that is not part of a storyline, disrespect you personally, just put their hands on you in ways that you don't want. There was a video a few weeks ago from the overseas tour where, you know, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes both had to brush off this OnlyFans chick in the crowd that was trying to, you know, touch them behind their neck and, like, rub them. And, you know, they're very committed to their wives. And also, they don't want to be fucking touched when they weren't asked. It was unwanted. So, whatever happens to a fan that does shit like that, they deserve it. That's my thoughts on that. Okay, I'm done. This is it for this week's episode. I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you haven't subscribed already, do so on YouTube. subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you download podcasts. Leave a 5-star review. It creates visibility for the podcast. Follow me on social media. I'm Gregory Iron on Twitter. I will not be doing a lot on there. I never do because I hate it. Instagram is a good place to go, Gregory_Iron. Facebook.com/TheHandicapHero. You can book me for pro wrestling seminars and motivational speaking now that I'm out of the sling. ProWrestlingTees.com/Gregory Iron if you want to buy my shirts, Aaron shirts, Iron on Wrestling shirts. I do have some shirts in stock personally. DM me if you'd like to support me directly while I'm out with my pec tendon surgery injury, which, by the way, my GoFundMe is still linked on my Instagram bio. Just search Gregory Iron GoFundMe. It'll come up. Every little bit helps. If you want to send me a couple bucks to buy something to drink, get a sandwich, that'd be great. It's hard out here for a gimp, okay? So, yeah. And Cameo, if you'd like a shout-out of some sort. And I do believe that's it. Thanks for stopping by. I always enjoy this. Appreciate all of your support. Love you guys. And if I'm, if I'm lucky, if you're lucky, go over to Patreon, get that $1 holla. It's $1 for an extra hour or more of a podcast. And, if you can't wait, go there. If so, if not, I guess I'll see you next week on the free version. And that's it. I'm tired. I'm rambling. It's 3:23 in the morning. So, what a time to ask for a kiss goodbye.